Welcome to my first ever hungover stream. Um, I'm just gonna start with Bitcoin. All right, let's start from scratch. What is up, Victor? Okay, so we have a clear break of structure. All right, so we have that. Let me get it clean. Depends on the exchange. Some exchanges we had a closure above, some we had closure on, some we had closure below, but this is good enough for me to consider that a break of structure. There's a reason why I canceled my shorts when I did. I think it was like a week ago or a week and a half ago, and we had all of the ingredients to propel this higher. Now we are getting to the area, the final boss area, right? So 92 point actually 92.5 to 95k. Okay, this is the final boss area before new all-time highs. If we get above here, then I do think we go much higher. And by much higher, I'm not talking about like 100k, 110k. I'm talking about like 130, 135k, which was my initial target for Bitcoin on this move. Well, this whole entire cycle. Now, if I were to draw fibs from the highs to the lows, okay, our golden pocket lies within this supply zone. So I know in my video that I mentioned I was going to short 92.5 95k. There is no signs of weakness here. We have a $150 spot premium. Um, Yesterday or this weekend when I took a look at this, it was only $30 to $50. So it's not a good time to short this until you see weakness, and this pump wasn't random. You had all, like I said, you had all the ingredients for this to happen. You had the break of structure, you had the spot premium, you had shorts fueling this whole entire move, but the spot buying was organic. So this move up was 100% organic. Um, so what I see happening is I see people, once we get to this resistance here, people start shorting, right? Maybe we have consolidation here under resistance, which exactly is what happened over here. A lot of people were shorting this 85k, but when you have consolidation under resistance, it usually leads to a breakout. But it makes sense for us to get to this resistance and start consolidating, but have a slight rejection. So if I am looking for shorts, I'm looking for that blow off top of this short, and this is where I would most likely look to short. Now, I want to see, a clear weakness before getting into anything because um, stocks had a terrible day yesterday, right? And today, even though they're up a little bit, we have just been grinding up while stocks have been down. So I mean, either we're gonna get some good news in the short term from Commander Cheeto and his administration. You have talks of Russia and Ukraine, ceasefire. Um, so there's a lot that could happen that could propel this higher. Now, this is still a valid area to short. If you don't want to see weakness, if you want to set bids, setting some small bids here does make sense. But once we had that break of structure, I want to see this. Like I want to see a breakout, and I don't want to see consolidation under here because if we start consolidating under here and you're going to start shorting, then you won't have really a small position because this could lead to another 5k candle in a single day. Um, right now, because we have broken structure, I would look for pullbacks to long. And there are honestly two areas where we could long pullbacks. Um, We might not get them, but this would be the area to do so. We had the neckline here of this, breakout. So a retest of, 87.5. To be honest, I think this gets front ran around here. This would be the highs, the previous highs. So I think, this area, which would also be another lower high, would be a good place to bid. Now, stop loss placement's a little tough there because, you know, on a lower time frame, stop loss placement would be around like 86K. Now, you don't see that on a higher time frame, so if we are going to take this, this would be most likely a scalp play, targeting that 95K area, risk no more than 2 to 3%. But if we do get that deep, where did my lines go? What the fuck? If we do get that deep retrace, then I'm looking for this demand zone here to be filled. Okay, and stops below 82K, entry around this demand zone, and this would be a much longer or better R&R with a safer stop than this one. This is just hoping that the retest holds, but this would be the short area that I'd be interested in. Scalps around this 92.5K does make sense. I just don't see the strength being stopped there. And if it is, it's going to be momentarily. So this would be like a 15-minute to 1 hour type time frame chart. But for Bitcoin, I'd rather long pullbacks, and this would be the areas to do so. These would be swing trades, obviously. And I mean, we had, I think, like record inflows recently, since for a while. So there's no reason to short anything right now. Yes, I'm speaking. What's up, Caleb? Crazy inflow since Monday when NQ and Bitcoin desynced. Yeah, we had I wasn't online to see anything, but the decoupling, is it different this time? I honestly do think it is because we did break structure. So even if we do continue to go down, I don't see us going down a lot. I mean, in a single, starting yesterday, we had a 5K candle, right? And then before that, so altogether in a single like day and a half, we have an 8K, almost an 8K candle. All right. Just trade the, yeah, like Fetch said here, trade the charts. Don't have emotions. If you think so this is the thing that I've said, not only in charts or in charts. Like I said, I'm slow today, guys. Not only have I said in chats, have I said in my videos, have I said on Twitter, if you think that the move is going to go further down, right, just start buying spot bags and DCA on the way down. You're not going to time the bottom, unfortunately. Like, you're not going to full port clip the bottom. No one is good enough to do that. I think like maybe like if you have $100,000 and you just put $100,000 into the market at the bottom, only like maybe 0.005% of people can do that, and that's just luck. So there's no shame in, if you think the market is going to go lower, to just having exposure to some coins that you think are going to do well. That's totally fine. My invalidation of the 50K before 100K is completely gone now. We have structure shift. So I still think that even though we go down, it's still good to have some type of exposure. And that's why I started buying again and have those deep bids just in case we have capitulation wicks or moves to the downside. Now, it's not going to be only up from here. We will have pullbacks. So I do think that the risk to reward is good if you want to start buying the pullbacks, because we have that structure shift on Bitcoin and the market. ETH. Some signs of life here on ETH. Let's just start from scratch. Fuck me, I need a mimosa to get over this hangover. Okay. So, clear SR point here, right? Shorts here do make sense. Okay. I mentioned this previously. Uh, lathering, laddering some small shorts here does make sense. Now, just like Bitcoin here, we have broken above these highs. And if we close the 4 hour in the next 36 minutes, we have an SR flip of these highs, right? Now, trajectory has also been up on ETH, right? Um, Technical targets for this wedge is around almost 2K-ish. Now we can go to a higher time frame and draw this downtrend. Depends on how you want to draw it. You can draw it. Let's do this. Okay, so that's why I'm saying that 1765-ish entry, which would also be another trendline touch with the supply zone, would be a good possibility of a short happening there. Now, ETH, is underperforming compared to, Bitcoin and like watch. We'll take it from yesterday's candle up until the highs, and then we'll take a look at SUI. Sorry, let's do this. Right, 9%, and then we'll take a look at SUI. Right, so this bullish engulfing candle basically erased all of the chop that we had for the past week and a half. And I do think, this short, although, risky with the fact that we've had the structure shift, will give you a nice rejection. Now, I just can't see us having a God candle on ETH like we did over here. I just can't see that. But in the event that we do, the swing short that you want to take on ETH, if you think we go higher or not, this is an area that is must short. Is that previous range low that we had that we turned into resistance? 2200 to 2400 would be a nice area to short ETH, and I'm definitely doing it. I'll call it once we get there or once we have the structure shift, but we are still in a way not bullish on ETH like we are on Bitcoin, because here is, okay, above this we flip bullish. Okay, so I'm still cautiously optimistic here, but things look good for altcoins moving up. The one thing that's weird though is Bitcoin dominance, putting in new highs, new local highs, while most alts are running with Bitcoin. Now, if this dips here, let's say, we are getting close to resistance around 65%, but if this goes and rejects and dips, and Bitcoin slightly dips as well, alts are going to completely go berserk. So that's why I'm saying, like, having some exposure looks good, but for ETH, I hate playing this coin on leverage because I've been, you know, fucked more than a porn star with this. But if ETH is going to give a nice opportunity for longs, then that was perfectly it. This 1655, which is the retest of this breakout point, would be the best place to do so. Right? Now, the only problem with that is stop loss placement, right? So if we're going to bid the trend line slash SR point, stop loss placement would probably be around like 1592 and still targeting. Here is a 4-hour supply zone. What the fuck? Wrong chart. I was like, I knew I drew that. So you gotta ask yourself, like, is this risk to reward worth it for you guys? Okay, that would be the only place. Otherwise, if we have this SR flip here, then you do have a potential quick scalp to take. 4-hour closes in 31 minutes, but right, SR flip, just stop loss placements very tight, and that would be it. So, this one has like a 95% chance of getting stopped out, whereas if we get a pullback, don't know how deep of a pullback we'll get. The 16, 50-ish area would be a good possible long area to take. Now we are at resistance on Bitcoins. Just keep that in mind. If this pulls back, ETH should have I mean, we are at all-time highs on Bitcoin, and ETH went to 1720. We're back to all-time highs, and ETH is down $20. So just keep that in the back of your mind. This is very, very weak compared to the rest of the market, but that would be a potential setup for you guys to take. Is it time to reduce size on shorts and increase on long? Yes. If you are counter trading, then you want your, if you're, if the trend is up, your shorts should be less size and your longs should be heavier. Whenever you are counter trading, your position sizing should be lower than, whatever trend is up. Soul. So I mentioned I was a Soul Maxi. The reasons were given in the video. I won't go into it, but daily closure like this, and we have an SFP. All right. Now let's keep a few things in the back of your head here. All right. Let me just extend this really quickly. So, although we have an SFP, and I think I've mentioned this to one or two people, you have to keep in mind the trend, right? It doesn't mean necessarily you're going to short every SFP or long every SFP. You have to keep in mind the trend. Yes, it may have a swing failure pattern or a liquidity sweep, but this may give you a nice rejection before going back up. And by nice rejection, I'm talking about 1 or 2%. Again, keep in mind the trend. And I'll give you an example of this when we go over hype. That's one of the coins I want to go over. We have a daily bullish engulfing candle. So this candle is bigger than the one before it. So not only that, we are at resistance here. And in my video, I mentioned we would most likely get to this resistance, come back down to put in a right shoulder, right? And then technical targets of this inverse head and shoulders would be roughly the highs of this, like a little bit higher, but technically I want us to go to these highs here, all right? This 180. So if we are to reject, this makes sense to reject from here. Now, where do we possibly go? It doesn't, why does my fucking line keep disappearing? Stupid trading view. Right, I gotta go to a lower time frame. If we are to get to a pullback zone, these are the areas that I want to buy. Now this is a demand zone. Okay, So laddering bids from 140 down to 136 makes sense. Now spot positions are a little bit different. Spot positions that I gave, I'm starting 140, 129 and lower, but this is a possible long to take. It's a very wide stop, so you have to treat it as a scalp, meaning risking no more than 2 to 3%. But if we take I mean, the area of most consolidation is going to be the support here. So although this entry around 140 is an SR point, the best optimal entry would be the support around 136. Do we get that? I'm not sure. Like I said, if the daily closes like this, we have an SFP, so this could provide a deep pullback. So just to be safe, you can go in very light at entry, okay, and DCA heavier towards the bottom. And what you can do is, if you want, and I probably would suggest it, like I said, like I'd rather start my entry like this, but you can go in with like maybe 10%, 15%, have deeper bids around like 40% here and 40% here, and keep a 4-hour or 8-hour stop loss, only because I do think we will go and take out these lows. Only, like I said, we have the SFP, but also um, Sol BTC is starting to get a little bit weak. All right. Same type of pattern here, right? Here's your left, here's your head, and here's your right shoulder possibly forming. We had this rising channel. Let me remove some of this junk. Okay, and it's playing out exactly to how I drew it. Now, and this looks like, a lower high forming. So if we get back below here and turn into resistance like this, then I can see us going down to this retest point. Well, first we'll stop here, but then going down to that retest point. If we go down to, 15109, this probably is going to be that 136 entry. That's why I'm saying, we may, front run here and not go lower, but I'd rather be a smaller entry or smaller position at entry and then DCA heavier here and keep my stop loss below and then target higher. But that's just me. And then shorts, like I'd rather not short anything right now, but if the daily closes like this, then you have, a clear SFP. It just depends how low this candle goes. If we go like down to here, it doesn't make sense to short because then you have to place your stop loss above. So for shorts, I'd rather wait until we get to a higher level of, resistance, which would fall in line either there or on a lower time frame around 150-ish, which is a psychological level for Sol. Okay, so like shorts there. Now stop loss placement's a little tough because you don't really have much data to go for from this. So probably stops would be around like 154-ish. And, at that point, we'll see where the TPs would be, but something like that. And then heavier shorts would be around this area. Let me show you an example of um, one sec. What I'm talking about when it comes to an SFP against the trend. This coin's ridiculous. Okay, so here is a 4-hour SFP that happened on hype. Okay, We closed below, and this is against the trend. We have broken out of this downtrend on the daily. Okay, we have broken market structure by putting in another higher low, but if we go to it on the 4-hour, once we closed like that, this gave you a nice 4% dump before going back up, right? So this is my example of what I was trying to say is although you may have an SFP that is, counter trend, it doesn't make sense to short it, and if you do, you have to be quick with your entries. Now, if we take a look at this on the daily, right, same thing happened. We did dip before we continued to rip. So, if you are going to take that sole short, just keep in mind 1 to 2% is a lot in this environment. So I'll just put that there, but because I'm on here, I'll go ahead and chart hype. Probably will be asked this. We have a rising wedge. Okay. We also have a bearish div. Okay. So target for this rising wedge is going to be, depending on where we break down from, around $17 back down to this support here. By no means am I saying go ahead and short here, because this coin is very volatile. But if we do break down and turn this into resistance, then you will take a short with stops probably above the wick. We are approaching a supply zone. This is an area where we most likely will reject from. So shorts here technically do make sense. And this would be more of a swing short. Shorts in this zone, stop loss above the wick. But we already know how volatile this coin is. So again, if you guys do want to short, this is a optimal area to short from. But look, Bitcoin is down $500 or $600 from the start of our video, and this is only up. Okay, so just keep that in the back of your heads. If you are shorting this, this is going counter Bitcoin or inversely, Bitcoin's direction. But this is a good area to possibly take some shorts. And getting into that next higher low would be a good area to long. Now, where is that higher low going to be? I gave spot bids in my channel, but if we take fibs from this low to, let's say, this high holds, this is a strong horizontal demand zone where I'd be looking to place bids and playing longs there. That's how I got this. Okay. Good place to play some longs there. Now, these fibs are only drawn with the assumption that these highs are put in. If this goes higher, these fibs will change. But this is a good area to go long for swings on. Actually, I'm adding it to my spot bags because I know how volatile this coin is. And when something is volatile, I don't play it on leverage, but something like this into a higher low and then target much higher. Shorts down 5 cents if you took it. All right. And the last coin I will go over before giving my soul to you guys is Sui. Not on the this was the last video that I made. We had a perfect short down to a perfect long that almost got stopped out. And I'm just going to remove these because they played out. But in my video, I said that, shorting range highs around 2.4962 does make sense. We are approaching it. We've touched it so many times. The short's valid. I'm just not going to take it because you can clearly see the strength from Sui. But this is a valid short setup still. If you guys want to take it, this is no longer valid. Now, if we get a pullback, a couple of areas where I'm looking for of interest, now depending on how deep of a pullback we'll get, is going to be this demand or this order block here. Okay. Now mid-range levels would be around here-ish. So we actually may pump from mid-range first, but we are a good ways away from it. So playing mid-range does make sense. I just don't see enough confluence there to do so. I see more confluence here. And then in the event that we go down to range lows, remember we always play a range by range highs, range lows, and mid-range. So this is a good area. Probably front run that. Stops below. Target the range highs. Okay. Now, we were just down a penny and Bitcoin only, hiccuped $80. The best short to take, and I know that I said the short's valid, is you have liquidity here. The best short to take would be a sweep of these highs, okay, and close back below this range here, then you could short with the stops above. That is the best short to take because you have these highs here that are not taken yet. Or, if we get back below this level here, then you can short with stops somewhere above there. All right. This is the safer short. This is the riskier short. But if you are going to set limits there, just know that you most likely possibly could get stopped out because of this unswept liquidity. Okay. Opening up the floor to you guys for a few coin recommendations. That was fast. Link. I'm actually very upset and butthurt that we didn't get. Where did I cover this? I know I covered it in my video. Whatever. All right. So Link broke out. Areas of interest for Link. Deviation on both sides. Flipped it to support. You also have an order block on a lower time frame that starts there. Probably there. And think in my video that I said I took the highs to the lows. We are at the golden pocket area, so it does make sense to reject from here. And yeah, you have clear resistance. That's where I'd be looking to short around 17 or 1473. It's also an SR point. So it does make sense to reject from here. It's just the risk to reward is not great from shorting here with stops above the highs. However, that is a valid trade, but that's where I'd be looking to long. And shorts, I'd be looking to short. DeFi looks good. Shorts, I'd be looking to short like back down to here. Obviously, if we get a deeper one there, that's a perfect area to short. Stopped out there, we short there. But this is long pullback season for now. You can draw your trend line. Coming back down there makes sense. I'll take a look at Tau. This is actually much higher. Above 358, then shit gets going. In the event that we get this pullback, that is a breakout of, or a retest of this breakout. That's where you want to start buying spot bids. Like I said, if you think we go lower, great. DCA on the way down. These are good areas to buy. Tau is very volatile for me to trade on leverage. But shorting at these at 258 kind of makes sense because it's a very strong level. Last time we broke down below, it took us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times to get above. We got below, right? Here's the first touch. Well, here's the first touch. Here's the second. So shorting there does make sense. But if the market continues to be green and ETH continues to run, it's too high of a stop. This would be most likely your trade setup. Now, does it mean we're going to go all the way down there? You'll have to figure out where to take profits yourselves at levels of support, but that would be a potential short scalp. Wow, $17 difference is only $5. And then longs, if we get 283, that's where you want to start buying spot. Lower time frame. You don't really have a clear divergence, but let me see something. This looks like a... Yeah, come back down there makes sense. Back to those highs. Something like that. Gold? Which one are you taking a look at? I know a lot of people take a look at XAU, okay, USD. I mean, this coin's in, well, last, I don't know. Coin's in price discovery. So I definitely wouldn't short something in price discovery. And I'm not familiar with this market in terms of, the demand, but we are getting to an area where, well, let's first draw some fibs. Let's draw from this swing low to that high area of demand. One sec, let me check something. Hmm. I don't think we're done pumping. I think this is just our third wave. We're getting close. Elliott waves don't work, by the way. I'm just checking something. So here are our areas of demand. We could come and bounce right here from this SR point, previous highs. Usually previous highs get retested, but if I think this ends around 3600-ish. But again, I wouldn't short something into price discovery. If you are trying to short gold, you have to wait until price action develops a little bit more to give clear, resistance levels. But this is what I see for gold currently. If you're looking to buy here and target 3600. Now, if we get back below here and put in a lower low, you are looking for the next lower high. If it puts in a lower high, that's where you're going to short with stops above the previous higher high. Ave. We are at supply here. I can see this taken out first before we dump, but again, failure to put in a lower low looks good. We have structure change. So if we do get a pullback into the next higher low, that's where you want to bid. This looks very similar to ETH, and of course it does. It is, a DeFi. So getting back down to this area here, depending on how badly we dip, but stops below the previous low and target, technical targets of this breakout would be these highs. Lose the trend and turn into resistance, then you're looking for shorts with stops above. But if we are to bounce, this would be an area to. Now I can't draw fibs really because we don't know where the highs are. We could go higher, but that would be a good area to possibly look for a long opportunity. Shorts, we're in a uptrend, so again, if you are going short, wait for or sorry, lower your position sizing. But that would be a good area to short. Very tight stops. Probably back down. And my trading style requires patience. I don't give, as many calls as, Neil or does. I probably average about 15 to 20 a month. Slow compound gains. What is this? Let me go to a lower time frame because it's cleaner to see. TIA. Ooh. Got a nice double bottom forming here. I like round bottoms. At resistance. So if you have, is this the lows? Yeah. If you have a clean break above and turn it into support, then you have technical targets of probably what, $3.10, yeah, $3.10, which also lines with a supply zone. So you need that flip to happen to go long. And double bottoms have shown to be very effective in the markets, regardless of what you're looking at. Like Sol had, not Sol, I think Sui and a few other coins had put in double bottoms and they looked very good. So TIA playing the same exact thing, breakout above, retest. You can go ahead and most likely long. Stops below the last low candle and target that supply zone. Short the supply zone. Now let me take a look at something. Yeah, shorting there does make sense. It would be another trend line touch, and it's getting weaker and weaker with every single trend line touch. So again, counter trading, you are going to be trading against, a double bottom and bullish structure. So this would be a lower position size, and then your longs, if we don't get that flip, then this could be an area of interest for longs. So conditional trade, limit shorts, limit longs. Then obviously you guys know me in ranges. If we go back to range lows, then you bid there. But I hate this coin. I would never trade it. It's in my banned shit list. TIA. H bar. Sorry, Ryan. I'm trying to go with those who hasn't said anything yet. H bar. H bar looks good too. You have an inverse head and shoulders, or a cup and handle, however you want to see it. Getting some exposure kind of makes sense now, because like I said, you won't be able to try time the bottom, and the more touches of this resistance. Ooh. Yep, this looks good for higher, I think. Who is Critique? DCAs for I wouldn't want anything below that, but that would be a good area for spot DCAs. Now this looks like it wants to go higher. You have a cup and handle, like I said. So getting exposure now and buying at those levels for a 27% move. Is Cryptique a friend of yours? Oh, then fuck him. I don't care. Um, Man, every single coin that I have on spot, I didn't get the deep fills. Like, I hope XRP goes down to $2.05, but I've been cucked by this coin so much for this to just continue running. This had the best of all the coins that I had outside of, Sol. CRV had the best setup, and I thought my my trading plan was wrong. I thought we would go lower, to at least test 80K to 79K, but the market had other plans. Sui, like I said, Sui's strong. I wouldn't short Sui right now. Yeah, I put in 2.5%. And usually 2.5% is a bit much for me as starter positions since I trade with a little bit higher size, but um, I just thought we'd get a deep enough pullback. Alright, guys. Alright, so let me stop recording here.